Get to the remix.
So this is a club ready 4x4 bassline tune made in Logic Pro X. Let me show you exactly how it works and how you can make one yourself. Now I always say there's no rules when it comes to making music, but for a bassline tune you want to be hovering at around 140 BPM. You can go up or down a bit. This one I made is at 138, so it's a little bit slower. But yeah, generally around 140 BPM is perfect for bassline. Now when it comes to bassline, you mostly want to be using minor keys just because it's got that little bit of a darker, naughty feel to it. If you make it in major, then you've got risk of it just not having that gritty feel. This one I made today is in B minor, which is a great key for making bassline. The sample that I used in this project kind of decided the key for me, but I knew it already had that dark gritty feel to it, so I knew the key would work anyway, but the sample was in B minor, so I had to stick to the B minor key. But of course, I could have moved the sample if I wanted to, but it worked anyway, so there was no need. Now I'm going to strip this back to just the kick and the bassline, because that is where the key to the track is. The name 4x4 is in bassline because it refers to the kick drum being on every beat in the 4 bars, so it's really important that your kick and your bassline are working well together. This is how it's sounding. So there you can hear, even with just the kick and the bassline, the general feel to the tune is still there. It might not be moving as much as when that hat and kick is in there, but it still goes hard just as it is there. Now, as I mentioned before, your kick just wants to be simple. Just 4 to the floor. Just one on every beat. A good way to check that if you've got that right, turn your metronome on. Make sure your metronome is set to 4/4, and your kick should perfectly sync up with your metronome. Now let's actually talk about the bass line itself. Now you'll notice when I play this bass line, it's never clashing with a kick. Just take a listen now. It's working round it, allowing space and breathing round that kick. Now the longer notes are going to give weight to the track and the shorter notes are going to give groove and bounce. Now you'll notice the first note of the drop is just this big long note here. And that just gives it great effect. So when it hits, it's just like wow, and it's got all that weight to it and it hits nice with the kick. Then we come in with some shorter notes that gives it that groove and bounce that I spoke about. And we've got this shorter noise to it. And we've got another shorter note straight after that gives you that ba-ba-boom. And that's got a lot of bounce to it as well. Now you'll notice with some of these notes here, they're not actually perfectly on grid. Like this one's really late and these are a bit late and these are a bit late. Moving the notes just a little bit off grid gives it that little bit of swing and gives it even more groove. Now you want to be really careful when you're moving notes late on the grid because you can easily make it sound out of time or just make it not feel right. And you don't want to do it on every note. For example, this first note, it's important that that's hitting with the kick nice and having a nice punch and impact. But when it comes to later on, when we're not like as much on beat 1 and we're on the off beats, putting those notes a little bit later just can add that extra little bit of swing and groove. So experiment round when you make your bass line with moving the notes a little bit off grid and just seeing how it feels and sounds. It's really important to just use your ear when it comes to this. The main thing to remember when making your bass line is the rhythm is more important than making a complex note pattern. When you actually look at what I've made and the bass line pattern itself, it's actually really simple. There's not loads going on, but it's just got lots of feel, lots of groove and lots of bounce to it. If you really want to make sure you're getting that naughty, dark sound, you want to try use notes that are really close together, only a semitone apart, like I've done here. Just because it just gives it that naughty feel when you're only moving down a little bit and using notes that are right next to each other. But try to use a variation of both. Subtractor is definitely the king when it comes to making these wobbly 4x4 bassline sounds. There is other options out there, like you can use Serum and Massive, but for me, Subtractor is the go-to and the go. Now, we're not going to be going into how to make Subtractor patches today, because we've only got so much time, but there is great packs out there that you can download to use on Subtractor. Today, I'm using my Pure Wobble preset pack, which is available on my website, and it's got 100 presets in there to play around with, so there's plenty of choice. But the main thing you want to consider when you're picking sounds for 4x4 bassline is you want a bit of sub in there to fill out that low end. The main thing is you want a nice mid that wobbles and fills your track out. That's where the vibe comes from, as you can hear in all these sounds I'm using today. So I'll go through each bass sound and solo them so you can hear what they sound like on their own, and I'll also open each patch up so you can see which specific patch I'm using from my pack. unfortunately, there's no exact formula to picking which basses should go where, but that's really where your own creativity and sound comes into play and what choices you make. I always like to pick a longer sound to hit on beat 1 and then a shorter sound to use in between for the rhythm and groove, but obviously you can use your own creativity and decide how you want to do things. The main thing to consider is just picking the right sound to go with the rhythm that you're playing. Now let's just quickly go over drum samples. Again, sound selection when it comes to the drums in this sort of bass line is really important, but the main thing is they want to be punchy and snappy and also just again have that gritty vibe to it. This is how my drums sound on their own. Now as you can hear, that kick is super short and punchy, the claps are nice and in your face, super gritty, and the hat is just clean, cutting through, keeping the vibe going. These drum samples are all from my absolute Bassline collection. As you can hear, everything is quite simple, but it all works really well together and nice and effectively. When it comes to making these 4x4 Bassline songs, especially when you're considering playing them in the club, the simplicity hits harder on those club speakers over making some mad complicated pattern that no one's going to get. If you have some crazy tune that's going all over the place when you drop it in the club, everyone's going to be looking around at each other wondering what's going on. Over just making something simple that hits hard, grooves hard, everyone's going to love that and it's going to go off. Now that's the fundamentals of what makes a bassline tune. Let's talk about those extra bits that you can add that make it sound professional and finished. Now when it comes to my drums, we've got a bit of saturation and some compression going on just to make them cut through and punch harder. We've got this bus compressor here on the drums. We're using Devil Lock from Sound Toys to add some nice saturation and just make it punch that bit harder. And then we're also using the Knock plugin by Decap here, again to add some more punch, saturation, bit of high end and a bit of clipping. Now when it comes to the processing on the bass, we've got a sidechain here using kickstarts. This is just to make sure our kick is cutting through. And then now turn it off. As you can hear, that makes a huge difference on if the kick's cutting through or not. And then we've also just got a bus compressor on the basses here as well. That's it as far as channel processing goes, but we need to talk about the effects in the build-up. In the build-up, I've got a low cut on the kick. This makes it feel like something's happening when the build-up's coming. It gives it that build-up vibe by cutting the lows out, and then when the lows come back in the drop hits even harder.
Dance or lean back, then pop your head to the beat. If you don't want to dance to the beat, serious, pop your head to the remix.
Final thing to talk about is just those little effects that I put in before the drop. This is just literally a DJ rewind, so someone's spinning the DJ deck back and then another DJ sound of it scratching as if the tune's starting up. Adding a little bit of ear candy like that just before you drop is really effective and it just kind of makes it more memorable.
Pop your head to the remix.
So yeah, try get creative. A lot of people do gunshots as well before the drop, just stuff like that, just to make it cool and go off more. Now that you understand how the track's been built, let's listen to it and see how everything locks together.
To the beat, just pop your head to the beat. If you don't want to dance to the beat, just pop your head to the beat. If you don't want to dance or lean back, then pop your head to the beat. If you don't want to dance to the beat, serious, pop your head to the remix.
If If you want to listen to the full finished track, I'm going to post it up on SoundCloud, link will be in the description. If you want more Logic Pro X bassline tutorials like this, I drop videos every Tuesday, so make sure you hit subscribe so you see them. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.